Have you ever found yourself in a long, drawn-out period of waiting? I mean, not just, for a package or something quick, but for something really profound, something you've yearned for so deeply that the very hope you once had starts to, well, fray. It kind of dissolves into this quiet resignation.
Yeah, that's a powerful way to put it. That sort of ache of a dream deferred.
Exactly. That promise that seems to just hang there, always just beyond your grasp, year after, agonizing year.
It really is a feeling that resonates, doesn't it? That mix of deep longing, but also that creeping doubt.
Yeah, the doubt whispering, maybe this just isn't going to happen. It's so human.
It truly is. And, in our world today, everything's so fast, right? Instant gratification. So that kind of prolonged waiting, it feels almost unjust sometimes.
Unjust, yeah, or even cruel.
Right. And what's fascinating is something we see in resilience studies is how easily we slap our own timelines onto these really significant life desires.
Yeah.
We expect things to happen, now.
We have our internal clock.
Exactly. And when reality doesn't match that clock, when the hands sweep past our deadline, well, hope can just evaporate.
And that's precisely the journey, that deeply human struggle we're diving into today. We're focusing on Sarah, Abraham's wife.
Mm-hmm.
Her story, when you look at the historical analysis, the ancient Near Eastern context, even modern takes on perseverance. It just embodies this pain of waiting.
It really does. It's more than just an old story.
So much more. It's this incredible lens on endurance, on the nature of promises, how mysterious they can feel, the sheer emotional weight of delay.
And that astonishing transformation, right? From total disbelief to, profound joy.
Exactly. So today we're unpacking Sarah's story, not just as, ancient history, but as this multifaceted way to explore patience, trust, all those complexities.
And how maybe, just maybe, joy shows up in the most unexpected ways.
That's the mission for this deep dive, to pull out the most crucial, maybe surprising, and definitely applicable insights from all these angles, hopefully helping you see your own experiences in a new light.
Okay, so let's start this deep dive right at the beginning. In a place that might actually surprise you. Sarah's life didn't start out roughing it in the desert.
No, not at all.
Our historical sources point to her beginning in, relative comfort, even sophistication, the ancient city of Ur.
Right, Ur. And when we think of these ancient times, maybe we picture nomads or simple villages, but Ur, that wasn't it.
What was it like then? Give us the picture.
Well, Ur was, by all archaeological accounts, a major player, a really thriving city-state back in ancient Mesopotamia. We're talking maybe the 3rd millennium BCE.
So established.
Very established. Think impressive architecture. Towering ziggurats, the Great Ziggurat of Ur, was this massive stepped temple, a serious feat of engineering for its time.
Wow. Not just huts then. Definitely not. They had sophisticated irrigation, extensive trade routes connecting them far and wide, a complex society with artisans, priests, administrators.
So a real city, bustling.
Absolutely. Estimates put the population maybe upwards of 65,000 people. That's a metropolis back then. So for Sarah, growing up there meant stability, predictability, a clear sense of place.
Which makes leaving even harder.
Exactly. From a sociological standpoint, leaving a place like Ur, a recognized cradle of civilization, is almost unimaginable. The cultural shock, the personal disruption.
You're leaving everything. Security, certainty.
Everything you've ever known. All for something completely unseen.
It really does sound like a world away from those dusty journeys we imagine. And that brings us right to that pivotal moment, the big turning point.
The call.
Yes. When God, as the account in Genesis 12 tells us, called Abraham to leave. Leave his homeland, his relatives, his father's house. Just go to a land he'd be shown.
No map provided.
Right. And Sarah, she chooses to go with him. Into the unknown. It's powerful language. Imagine leaving everything, family, security, and home, for a promise you couldn't yet see.
It wasn't just moving down the road. It was a complete uprooting.
A total reset.
And you have to ask, psychologically speaking, what does that take? What kind of conviction, or maybe desperation? Or just pure, unadulterated trust.
To abandon your whole world.
Your entire known world. For something intangible. She wasn't shown pictures, no brochures of the promised land, just words, a promise heard, not seen.
Based solely on her husband hearing a divine call.
Exactly. It speaks volumes about promises that start just as sound.
Yeah.
Not yet felt, not yet realized. It was a leap into pure potential, zero certainty, a radical life change.
And as they start that journey, that initially unseen promise, well, it starts to feel different. Our sources describe it as becoming cruelly delayed.
The waiting begins.
And not just waiting a little while. The initial excitement, maybe the adventure of it all, must have worn off pretty quickly.
You'd think so. Reality kicks in.
We're talking years, then decades, just year after year passing, with no sign of the main thing, the core of the promise to Abraham.
Which was lineage, descendants, a great nation.
Which absolutely required
Yeah.
a child. And they weren't getting younger.
No. And the societal pressure back then, especially on women in these patriarchal cultures regarding children, it's almost impossible for us to fully grasp today.
Tell us more about that context. It wasn't just personal desire, was it?
Oh, far from it. We see it in ancient legal texts like parts of the Toda Hammurabi, archaeological findings. For a woman, motherhood wasn't just, nice to have. It was tied to everything.
Like what?
Her social standing, her very purpose in that society, her economic security, her legacy. Being barren, it wasn't just a private sorrow. It was a huge social stigma.
A public issue.
Absolutely public. Often seen as divine disapproval, maybe even a curse. The woman was seen as closed off. It could even be grounds for divorce or just being completely ostracized.
So when Sarah says in Genesis 16, the Lord has kept me from having children, those words carry enormous weight.
Immense weight. It's deep personal heartache, yes, but also crushing societal pressure. And probably by then, this terrifying questioning of the whole promise that made them leave Ur in the first place.
Her barrenness was a constant, visible reminder of the unfulfilled promise, a kind of public shame.
A constant silent accusation, really.
That sounds like an almost unbearable burden, emotionally and socially. And that kind of long, long wait, that cycle of hope rising and then crashing down again, it must do something to you internally.
Oh, absolutely. Sociological studies on chronic stress show exactly that. It changes your internal landscape. You start perhaps with optimism.
Right, maybe excitement at first.
Then it shifts to despair as time drags on. And then, almost inevitably, you start questioning the promise itself. Maybe even questioning the one who made the promise.
You start to wonder, was this real? Did I misunderstand? Is God even faithful?
Precisely. What's really key here, psychologically, is how the delay itself becomes the biggest hurdle. It's not just the circumstances, it's the internal erosion.
The waiting itself is the challenge.
It's a primary challenge. Doubt creeps in, like a slow poison. Questions about whether the promise was even true, or worse, about the integrity of the promise giver. It just wears down your spirit.
Testing the very foundation of your belief.
Relentlessly.
Yeah.
So Sarah's tears, when the narrative mentions them, it wasn't just sadness about being childless. It was likely this profound, built-up disillusionment. Maybe even feeling betrayed after decades.
Decades. We need to remember the timescale. It wasn't just a few years.
No. It was about 25 years from that initial promise in Genesis 12 to Isaac's birth. Imagine carrying that weight, that uncertainty, for a quarter of a century.
Okay, so faced with this excruciating delay, this profound despair, Sarah reaches a point of desperation, and she makes a decision.
A fateful one.
Yeah, the sources, especially Genesis 16, frame it clearly as a mistake with huge consequences. She suggests giving Hagar, her Egyptian servant, to Abraham.
To bear a child for her.
Right, it's this moment of human intervention, a desperate attempt to kind of force the promise into existence on her own terms, her own timing.
And while the narrative definitely frames it as a mistake later on, we have to understand it in its specific cultural and legal context at the time.
What was that context?
Well, ancient Near Eastern legal codes, we find them in Mesopotamia, places like Nutsi. They actually detail practices like using secondary wives or concubines.
So it wasn't completely out of the blue?
No. If the primary wife was barren, it was a recognized way, though often, really problematic and full of tension, for a household to get an heir.
A way to continue the family line.
Exactly. For a wife who couldn't conceive, providing a slave woman to her husband was culturally understood, sometimes even legally sanctioned, to ensure the family line, Abraham's inheritance, continued.
So Sarah wasn't just acting randomly out of desperation.
Not entirely random. It was a solution rooted in the legal and social rules of her time, driven by that intense, relentless pressure she felt to produce an heir.
The pressure must have been immense.
Suffocating, likely. So while we see the tragic outcome, understanding that context helps us grasp the pressure she was under. It was a culturally available path, just, not the divinely promised one.
And the fallout from that decision? It was immediate and devastating, wasn't it? The sources say jealousy, pain, and broken relationships followed.
Yes, Genesis 16 and later in 21 really detail that breakdown. Once Hagar is pregnant with Ishmael, she starts to despise Sarah.
And Sarah doesn't react well.
No, Sarah treats Hagar harshly. Hagar flees into the wilderness. Even after Hagar comes back and Ishmael is born, that tension is just simmering under the surface.
Until it boils over later.
Right. Eventually, Sarah demands that Abraham send Hagar and Ishmael away. It's brutal.
So the solution to one problem, childlessness, created a whole cascade of new, painful problems.
Exactly. It ripped apart their family fabric, created this deep wound, and, as many commentaries note, set the stage for conflicts that echoed for generations.
Talk about unintended consequences.
It really raises that timeless question, doesn't it, for all of us, when we try to help a promise along, especially when we're tired of waiting or things look impossible. Does it ever really work out the way we intend?
Or does it just make things messier?
More often than not, it seems to complicate things immensely, introduces pain, friction, resentment. Sarah's story is just such a vivid example of how human impatience, even understandable desperation, can lead to actions that cause profound damage.
Those unforeseen ripples.
Exactly, a stark reminder.
But, and this is a really crucial but in the narrative, despite this failure, despite the flawed solution and all the heartache that followed, our sources consistently emphasize, yet even in failure, God didn't abandon her. That's not just a side note, it feels central.
Oh, it's absolutely central. The implications are huge. Think about the contrast it sets up.
Human fallibility versus
what the narrative consistently presents as unwavering divine faithfulness. Sarah messed up. She got impatient, tried to manage the promise herself.
very human reactions.
Totally human. But the story insists that even those missteps, even our clumsy attempts to take control when things feel out of control, don't necessarily derail the bigger picture. The divine promise remains.
So our mistakes don't automatically cancel the promise.
That's the powerful theological idea being presented here. It speaks to this incredible divine perseverance through our imperfections. It's not just about us persevering in faith, but about a faithfulness that persists despite our lack of it sometimes.
That's actually quite reassuring.
It is. It suggests that even when we stumble, when our methods are flawed or our trust completely wavers, the ultimate purpose, that foundational promise, can still hold. It can still find its fulfillment. It's a powerful thread about a commitment that transcends human error.
And this commitment, this faithfulness, despite human failing, leads us to what the sources call it, a truly shocking moment. We're in Genesis 18 now.
Right, the visit by the Oaks of Mamre.
Exactly. Suddenly, 3 heavenly visitors show up at Abraham's tent. And this isn't just, some guys passing through.
No, this is freighted with significance. In that ancient Near Eastern context, beings like this appearing described as men, but clearly understood as divine messengers, maybe even God in human form.
It's not a casual drop-by.
Not at all. It signals a direct divine pronouncement. It cuts through almost 25 years of waiting and silence.
It's a direct intervention.
Absolutely. And notice how direct the message is. No ambiguity, no riddles to solve. Their very presence signals something cosmically important is happening. This isn't just news, it feels like a decree.
And the core announcement they deliver,
Yeah.
it's just mind-blowing, especially given everything we've discussed, Sarah's age, the decades of waiting. They tell Abraham straight up, Sarah, your wife, will have a son. Now, the text doesn't give her exact age right then, but later, when Isaac is born, Abraham is 100.
Meaning Sarah's about 90?
90. So this promise isn't just unlikely, it's impossible, right?
Yeah.
Medically, biologically, naturally impossible. She's decades past childbearing age.
And this is where the story just pushes past all our normal boundaries of understanding. It forces that question. How do we react when faced with something that completely defies logic and experience?
Everything she knew screamed impossible.
Her own body, decades of barrenness, societal norms, all of it. The announcement challenged every single empirical reality she lived with. It's a moment designed to shatter expectations, to point towards a power beyond natural limits.
It's radically counterintuitive.
Would have seemed almost absurd.
And Sarah's reaction to this absurd, impossible news, it's so raw, so visceral, and so central it gives our deep dive its title.
She laughed.
She laughed. But the text and the interpretations are crystal clear. This was not a joyful laugh, but a laugh of disbelief.
Yeah, you can almost hear it, can't you? That cynical chuckle, maybe bitter irony, like, yeah, right, me, now.
After everything she'd been through.
Exactly. And psychologically, that kind of laughter, it's often a coping mechanism, isn't it? For news that's just too overwhelming, too unbelievable to process immediately.
A release valve.
Sort of. An expression of sheer incredulity. Maybe even, yeah, that cynicism born from decades of disappointment. It's a very human response when something sounds utterly absurd.
It's the sound of her mind just reeling, trying to reconcile this impossible claim with her harsh reality.
Right. Her laughter wasn't necessarily rejecting God outright, but it was this almost involuntary expression of how could that possibly be?
And I think that's why it hits home for so many of us. The sources practically invite us to ask ourselves, have you ever laughed at a promise like that, thinking, that could never happen for me?
It really personalizes it, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We've all been there, faced with a hope that feels too good to be true or a mountain that looks too high to climb. And that first internal reaction is often that scoff, that dismissal. Impossible.
And it highlights the incredible power of our past experiences, right? How they shape what we expect for the future.
Definitely. Sarah's past was barrenness.
For decades, it wasn't just a physical state. It had solidified into this deep, maybe even unconscious belief about what was possible for her. Her body, her history, society, everything screamed no.
So her disbelief wasn't just a fleeting mood.
No, it was deeply ingrained. The natural result of a lifetime of evidence pointing the other way.
Yeah.
It really shows that human tendency. We project past failures onto future possibilities.
We let our history limit our future.
Sometimes, yes.
Yes.
Her laughter in that moment was like the audible voice of her entire painful history.
But here we are. We arrive at what our sources emphatically call the jaw-dropping part. God had the last laugh.
Not just a clever phrase. This is the pivot.
This is where everything flips. Disbelief becomes undeniable, joyful reality.
And that age detail is just crucial for getting the scale of this miracle as the narrative presents it. At 90 years old, Sarah gave birth to Isaac.
90, it bears repeating.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't just a surprisingly late pregnancy by today's standards. In that context, biologically, historically, it was portrayed as overcoming absolute impossibility.
Shattering all expectations.
Completely. It underlined that this wasn't just unlikely, it was a direct divine intervention, transcending known physical laws. The sheer unlikelihood, the impossibility is the whole point. That's what makes it foundational.
And the name they give this miracle child, it's just perfect, isn't it? It ties everything together so powerfully. Isaac, which the sources explain means he laughs.
It's incredible.
What started as Sarah's laughter of disbelief, that cynical, weary sound, it becomes the actual name of the child who brings this overwhelming, miraculous joy.
It's such profound narrative symmetry. A masterstroke, really. It shows how the very source of her skepticism, that sound of incredulity,
Wasn't just overcome, but repurposed.
exactly, her bitter laugh was transformed into the name of her greatest joy. A living reminder of the promise fulfilled against all odds.
The laughter of doubt becomes the name associated with delight.
It's a powerful metaphor, isn't it? How something we see as impossible can, through divine action, become the embodiment of fulfillment. It's not just changed circumstances, it's the meaning itself that's transformed.
And this incredible transformation, it's not just left for us to figure out. The sources, especially Hebrews 11:11, give us this profound theological reflection.
Right, that key verse.
By faith, Sarah herself received power to conceive even when she was past the age, since she considered him faithful who had promised. It kind of sums up her whole journey, doesn't it? From doubt to trust.
It's an incredibly rich verse, and it makes you ask, what does that really mean to consider him faithful who had promised? Especially when everything seems impossible, when you've waited decades, when you yourself laughed in disbelief.
It's not about ignoring reality, is it?
No, it doesn't seem to be suggesting blind faith that just denies the facts. It seems more about a decisive shift in perspective, a recentering of trust.
From her own limitations to God's faithfulness.
Precisely. Sarah's path, as we've seen, wasn't straight. It wasn't perfect faith from day one. There was doubt, impatience, the huge mistake with Hagar.
It was messy.
Very messy. But this verse suggests that at some point there was a breakthrough, a shift away from focusing on her own inability, the impossible circumstances, and onto the character of the one who made the promise.
Trusting the promiser, not the circumstances.
Trusting the promiser's faithfulness and power, even when her own capacity was zero. It's trust placed outside of herself.
And that's such a crucial point for you listening right now. Sarah's journey, it wasn't neat. It wasn't linear. It was profoundly human, full of flaws. Doubt, error, trying to take control. She did all that. But then, amidst the mess, came this breakthrough of trust. And then the fulfillment.
Which makes her story so relatable, doesn't it?
Absolutely. She's not some distant figure on a pedestal. Her struggles mirror our own imperfect attempts at perseverance and hope.
It makes her incredibly human. And her story powerfully suggests that those moments of disbelief, those times we get impatient or try to force things, they're part of the journey.
They don't automatically disqualify us?
Apparently not, according to this narrative. They don't necessarily negate the ultimate promise. In fact, sometimes navigating and overcoming that doubt can actually deepen the eventual appreciation of the breakthrough.
It becomes part of the testimony.
Exactly.
Right.
Her story shows that our doubts aren't always the end. They can be part of the terrain we cross on the way to seeing promises fulfilled. It speaks to patience, ours, and maybe God's too, and this transformative idea that real faith can actually grow from the ashes of disbelief.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Sarah's incredible story, let's just quickly trace that arc again. From comfort in to the terrifying unknown.
Based purely on a promise.
From the agony of barrenness, the social shame, to this completely unexpected, miraculous breakthrough.
Decades later.
And that journey encapsulated in her laughter, from the cynical laugh of disbelief.
You're right.
To the pure, unbridled laughter of joy when she holds Isaac. It's an extraordinary human life intersecting with divine purpose.
And that's why the sources, old and new, keep saying her story isn't just history. It's presented as, quote, prophecy for your life.
Which forces us to ask, okay, how do we take these ancient lessons, especially the ones that stretch our sense of possibility, and apply them now to our lives, our challenges?
To the promises we're holding on to today. It's meant to resonate personally.
Exactly. And maybe for you, listening right now, maybe you feel like the sources described, delayed, overlooked, or even forgotten.
That feeling is real.
Maybe you're waiting for that career breakthrough, or for a relationship to heal, or for a dream you've held for years, or just for some challenge to finally resolve. This story holds up a mirror to that waiting, that strained patience.
And if we really lean into the core message here, it offers this powerful challenge, this profound encouragement. But if God kept his promise to a 90-year-old woman, defying biology itself,
what makes you think he won't keep his word to you?
It's not just a nice thought. It's a direct challenge based on the scale of Sarah's miracle. It invites us to use that as a benchmark, to maybe reconsider what we think is impossible in our own lives.
To recalibrate our definition of impossible.
Right. What odds are truly insurmountable if that could happen?
So as you continue thinking about this after we finish, maybe take a moment. What promise are you holding on to right now?
Yeah, what is it for you?
Is it a specific goal that feels miles away? A hope for transformation for yourself or someone else? Or maybe it's a core belief you're struggling to hold on to against setbacks.
And while you're reflecting on that, maybe also think about your own moments of disbelief. Those times you've encountered something that seemed impossible.
Where have you had that cynical laugh?
And ask yourself, can you pinpoint anywhere, maybe a pattern, where your own doubt, your own internal, yeah, right, might actually be stopping you from even imagining a breakthrough?
From seeing a different path.
Exactly. Where might your past experiences, your ingrained assumptions, be limiting your vision for what could be?
Because the truly transformative idea here, the hope embedded in Sarah's entire journey, is this. Just like Sarah, that laughter of disbelief, it really profoundly can turn. It can become, just as it did for her, the laughter of pure, unadulterated joy. Imagine that shift in your own life.